So welcome to the chat with the core team. I guess just for good measure, I guess let's have the core team go around and introduce to say who's on the call. So I'm Lori Shepard. I'm in Buffalo, New York with Martin, and I do a bunch of various different parts of the project. Mostly the single package builder for new submissions and the hubs. But also have had a hand in the Amazon machine instances and help Hervé with the build system, as well as a bunch of other random projects.
Hi, I'm Nitish. I work for the Bioconductor core team as well. I work primarily on scaling Bioconductor and its solutions onto the cloud. I work on the Docker images, the Anvil project, some infrastructure for Bioconductor, the Git ecosystem, and I also write a few R packages which help me go in this direction.
I'm Kayla Interdonato. I've been part of the core team for about 2 years now. I'm based in Buffalo, New York, with Martin's group, and my first project was the BioC set package, which is Tibble representation of gene sets using some of the dplyr functionality. But I've kind of branched into being the shadow of a bunch of the things that Bioconductor works with, such as the single package builder, experiment hub, annotation hub. I was responsible for getting the annotation packages together for the past couple releases, and various things with the website and the support site and things like that.
Hi, I'm Hervé Pagès. Sorry for the background noise. Hope you can hear me fine. I'm part of the core team. I work for Martin. I work remotely. I'm not in Buffalo. I'm in Seattle at the Hutch. I've been in the project for 14 years, 15 years maybe now, and doing various things, implementing the build system for the nightly builds, the download stats scripts to generate all the package download statistics, and taking care of various core packages like biostrings, iRanges, S4 vectors, genomic ranges, and more recently, delayed array and SJ5 array.
Hi, my name is Marcel Ramos, and I have been in the Bioconductor group for about, I think, close to 4 years. I said 3 last time, but thinking about it, I think it's 4. I work on mainly on multi-assay experiment, but I also do a bunch of other packages like curated TCJ data, CBio portal data, and I work on BioC Manager as well and other packages. So a lot of things.
So the first ones coming through the poll are, I guess, more of a comment: building books on the BBS. I don't know if whoever posted that wanted to expand on that at all. Or?
Oh no, I just had to turn off my background music. Yes, that was from me. Is there a plan to have a formal support for building these books on the build system? I know. I've been working with Hervé to get this Oscar book up and running, but building it, hosting it, rather than using GitHub Pages. GitHub Pages is a bit of a pain, actually. Any thoughts?
So we've tried to, hey Aaron, we've tried to sneak in your your book, the building of your book through the workflow build, through the workflow builds. It's kind of hack. We can certainly try to come up with something better for the books. And I'm open to work on that. I thought you were maybe going to go for some other solution with working with Vince on some other solution using, I can't remember what you were going to use, but
it was Anvil.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying anything, man, because
right.
Right now I'm just running it on my laptop, right? It's like 300,000 cells and it's just like chugging away on my laptop.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we need something better. It's in my experience, it has not been too hard to modify a little bit the build system to make it work with different kind of builds, like the long test builds, workflows builds. Each build has its own requirement, but the base code is the same, and there are a few things that needs to be modified maybe. So for the books, we could try to come up with something that works well. Yes.
Thank you.
So still BBS question, can we get something like the Win Builder for the BBS? These Windows errors are frequently killing me.
Maybe you want to answer that one, Laurie? Because that would be, if I understand correctly, the question is some on-demand builds. Right now, the PBS is for those daily builds, right?
And I guess, yeah, there's also the similar question here, same as Win Builder question above, but with build on demand for all platforms. So I'll say with the recent, I don't know how many of you submit new packages, but we did do an update for the single package builder where we started adding packages to our get.bioconductor org location on submit to also help people get used to pushing to get.bioconductor and help people understand remotes up front. And because of that, we made a lot of changes in the back end to be able to get the repositories from the get.bioconductor.org location. And the plus side of that is we set it up where hopefully eventually we can open it up at least for the Devel branch to build on demand like the single package builder does with the valid version bump. It's still a work in progress, and we still have some like safety nets that we have to put in place as far as building and cleaning up reports, because obviously that extends a lot of load for the single package builder, that we want to make sure that it's more stable and that there's some cleanup methods in place, because we have to store all these build reports somewhere then. But there is sort of a work in progress to try to get that available to people. We don't really have a good time frame up for it. I'm hopeful that we can move towards that within the next release or two. So hopefully it's forthcoming. And I guess I'll take this one too, since I'm already talking and unmuted. Hub connectivity is pretty sporadic from China, maybe due to problems connecting to S3 through the firewall. Are there any thoughts of having a Chinese mirror? That's a great point. I don't think we've thought of that. I don't think, because we've developed it here, I don't think we've really fully thought about the issues with S3 to other parts of the world, but that is an excellent point, and I certainly could look into that and work with AWS to try to figure out a solution, because we definitely want it accessible to everywhere. Otherwise it defeats the purpose. So I will definitely follow up on that after the conference, because it is a good idea to do. Hervé, this one's addressed specifically for you. What are the current best practices for parallelization with HDF5 array? For example, reading things in a BPL apply loop.
Yeah, I saw that question already. It was posted on the Slack. I think it's a question that was asked during Pete Hickey's workshop, and I answered it on the Slack. And the answer is that yeah, you can use BPL apply. That means you're gonna do your own homemade cooking for reading things in parallel, but you can also use block apply, which is a looping function that is provided in a delayed array that is specifically designed to make it easy to work on blocks of an array, right? Of a delayed array object, and it can work in a parallelized fashion. So you can define a parallelization backend. You can set a parallelization backend, and it will do the block processing job in parallel. It's something to keep in mind is that there are already many operations that do block processing behind the scene. When you do something like when you call a matrix row or column summarization function like row means or row vars, or when you do matrix multiplication. And there are other things. In my Slack answer, I gave a few other examples of that. Those operations already do some kind of block apply behind the scene. And if you have set a parallelization backend, they will operate in parallel. One thing to keep in mind about parallelization is that, and I think Pete made a point about that, is that it will never give you as much performance boost as you might hope. It might give you a little improvement, but you need to keep in mind that with delayed array objects and with SGF5 array objects in particular, where the data is on disk, the bottleneck is, sorry, it's very noisy here. Okay, big truck. The bottleneck is the I/O. So when you parallelize things, when you parallelize something like reading the blocks of a delayed array object to work on several blocks at a time, you also you will be in a situation where reading the blocks is actually reading various blocks at the same time is going to compete for the I/O bandwidth, and it might, so the reading of the individual blocks might actually slow down. In the overall performance might be a little bit better in the end, but not that much if you are limited by the I/O.
The next one that came up here is, did Bioconductor consider leveraging the GitHub Actions for Package Builder?
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure.
So it's complicated, right? So Bioconductor can't actually leverage GitHub Actions directly, because we have these tarballs which are built, and these are the tarballs which we need to use as package dependencies for the package which is being built again every night. So it's not directly possible, at least right now, to use GitHub Actions for package building. Does that make sense? Or actually there is a CI option which is given by, I think, RStudio Actions or like BioC Actions or some repository like that. And you can say, use this action in like the use this package, but it gives you a package builder on GitHub Actions, which is very limited. I want to say it's not, you cannot mimic the build system directly. Yeah. That's the best I could do.
And I will point out, just from shadowing Hervé like the last year or so on the build system, the intricacies and edge cases and details that have gone into building the build system. I feel like the general public and even the core team doesn't fully appreciate until you actually try to look in the code and help manage it, that there's a lot built into it that while it seems straightforward, it really is not.
There was some discussion about this in the public data resources workshop that Sean and Levi held. And at least to begin with, we were thinking about supporting some Bioconductor GitHub actions for checking your package and things of that nature, but replicating the build system is a huge task, so I don't think that's going to come anytime soon. And it's on GitHub, so we probably would have to rely on GitHub too heavily, and that might be an issue.
Is there a budget for redesign of the website to be cooler with D3 and everything? Something like said link, but with BioC stickers. I will say I know it's a frequent request to redo the website, and that it does certainly need a refresh. Again, I think there's a lot to it that goes into it, and the main limitation is that there's no real web design expertise currently on the core team. And I know from sitting on the community advisory board that there's been some discussion to look into funding to try to find someone or to think about the redesign of the website in coordination with the technical advisory board. So there is discussion. It's just it's not happening as readily because none of us have strong web design backgrounds that can kind of take over it. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on it, but
it's also a fairly complicated challenge, right? Like, it's not just redesigning the website and like using the latest JavaScript library or anything. It's also about knowing how to organize the content, and it's a significant challenge because there is a lot of useful content on the Bioconductor website right now, and there's pages and pages of it. So it's not just redesigning it, but it's also organizing all the helpful content in it. It'll take some time. Whenever it starts happening, even then I anticipate it like taking a year or so at least, with a full-time developer just doing the website. Yeah.
yes, we understand that it's kind of difficult right now to find things that are there. So we do recognize it.
One thing I've been trying to push is to redo the landing pages, at least with package down, but we have a system that is really complicated for building that, and we could use some help in doing that if that is a priority.
So this is for a beginner, never built package before. When running into an issue when building a package, where to look for help? The question could be very general, such as errors when building a PDF file. I'll say, I guess, the BioC Devel mailing list, its purpose is to ask for help when developing packages and about package implementation. If you're already in the submission process, we do encourage you to write on those GitHub issues that you open when you submit a package with your reviewer. And along with that, when we do package reviews, we talked about it in the other meeting, how every week we have a longer team meeting where we review open issues on the support site and on the mailing list. And we also review package reviews and how many of us have outstanding package reviews due, so that we do try to keep each other on track. And we'll go through and see if anyone has posted questions that need help pushing it through the review process. But while developing, the support site and the mailing list are great options. Try not to cross list though. Please put it either in the support site or in the mailing list so that there's one consistent thread and we don't get fractured conversations. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to say about that.
I was going to say that there's a BioC Packathon, but I'm not sure if it's run in English or in Japanese group that helps with building packages. Another resource is to organize a meetup. If it's more about general R package building, maybe a meetup would be something that would help you build a package.
And the Packathon is in Japanese, but they do Google Meet that has the closed captioning option. So I think it does, you do have an option to have it translated into English. It just might be a little slow and broken, but I've never used their translating, so I don't know how well it comes across, but they do use Google Meet for that purpose. The support site beta has been in beta for a long time. Is it going to be released soon? Yes. So I'm in charge of that and working very closely with that along with Kayla. We are waiting for the BioC styles to roll out theirs because they have been basically our full-on beta test of the testing beta site. They also took a month-long hiatus this past month and plan to roll it out when they get back. So I anticipate it with hopefully no other delays. Hopefully by the end of August, early September at the latest. But I think we're shooting for that right now. So hopefully not too much longer. Marcel, can you say a bit more what the specific challenges are with integrating package down or page?
Yeah, I think it's page down or package down. So it takes our landing pages take BBS products, and Lori knows more about how the intricacies of how this works. But essentially, it takes BBS products and generates a landing page. So the way we generate those pages using package down would have to integrate with that.
So currently a lull in polls. I don't see any new questions. I guess it's filler while you guys all think. I know one that we get a lot on the help page and the mailing list is I've pushed an update to get, but I don't see my updates on the landing page, or I don't see a new build report. And I guess I'll just briefly mention timings and how that's all interconnected right now. So firstly, if you push an update to the git.bioconductor.org, it has to include a valid version bump. And if it didn't include a valid version bump, then it's not going to propagate on the build system or to the landing page. So make sure that when you push that you do a valid version bump. And then we do nightly builds. And so the daily builder until we get the on-demand up and running is once a day. And Hervé can correct me on the times. I think we get pulling all of the repositories to the builder around 4:45 Eastern Standard Time. And so if you've made a commit anytime before that for the previous day, then it would be included in that build report. And if it's after 4:45 Eastern Standard Time, PM, I guess, forgot, not all is used. So what, 16:45. And if it's after that time frame, then it would go on the following day's build report. And the build report normally takes a day. It gets posted the following day, roughly right now around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time-ish. And there's a date at the top to indicate if it's the new day's build. So it does take that time period. So that right there could be anywhere between a 12 and almost a 24-hour waiting period for that. And then the landing pages will get updated once the full build report is generated. So then it could take another hour or so after that to see those changes reflected on the actual landing pages for the package. So just kind of a comment there, because I know that's a frequent question that we get on the mailing lists. Anyone else on the team want to tackle some frequently asked questions or address anything?
I wanted to note that we are considering organizing or recognizing the need that the learning content on our Bioconductor website needs some like topics to include. and easier organization so that you can find things easily.
I guess I'll toss one out that I know sometimes can be hard. Hervé, can you maybe briefly touch upon like what sort of environment variables, or I know one of the questions we get is I'm running command build and check locally, but I'm unable to reproduce the errors that I see.
Right, so we use just a few environment variables that are recognized by RCMD check to modify a little bit the behavior of RCMD check, to make it a little bit more strict in some areas. So I don't have the details in my head right now, but if you look at the report for your package, at the top of the page of that report, there is a link to a document that lists those variables. This document is actually a file that you can directly use on your own machine as a .r environ file. I can't remember exactly the details, but all the details are at that link. And so if you use the same environment variables locally, you should be able to reproduce the error you see on the build report. Of course, you need to make sure that you are using the right version of R and that your packages are up to date. And if you do that, chances are high that you'll be able to reproduce what you see on the report.
This is the Bioconductor homepage, and down here in develop, we have the build reports, and we have our release and our devel build reports, and we can go to the report here, and then these have the report for specific packages. And what Hervé was talking about, if we click on a page, you'll see this link for please make sure to look the following settings. And so that has the information here about what we're using and a little bit of how to use it. So that was what Hervé was referring to. How much feedback is collected from the community before building certain solutions? For example, the website has been on the to-do list for 2 to 3 years now, the Get Browsing tool as well. I mean, again, we do appreciate all of the community feedback, and we do encourage the community to give us feedback, and it's not that we're not listening. It's more of, as you could see, there's 6 of us for a very large project with a large amount of tasks. So we want to get them done, and it has been on the to-do list, but again, it's just more so limited expertise and limited resources. I feel is the biggest thing, because we do talk about them, and before at the start of every release and at the end of every release, the core team does sit down to kind of map out where we are with the project and where we want to go and set some goals for the next release. And those are always on there, and it's just, it's hard without the skill set to do it.
Do you think this is a good moment to get into possible hires and stuff, which we had on the Google Doc as a...
That would be fantastic. Do you want to share your screen and pull it up? You want me to, or?
You should do it, yeah.
Okay.
I'm on another call as well.
Ah, okay. Let me see if I can pull up the link. Because we are always hiring, so if you know people, or you know people that would be interested, especially ones that could help us out with that. There is a job posting right now for Roswell Park. It's called a scientific software developer right now. And we are looking, and we encourage you to apply. Maybe I'll stick this list. I think there's a job section Is there a job channel in community Slack? If there's not a job channel in the community Slack, I'll stick it in the general channel, a link to this job posting. But we would encourage anyone that knows of anyone to apply.
There's also, sorry to interrupt, there's also a jobs tab in the platform.
Perfect. Also good. Maybe we'll make sure it's there. And if that doesn't seem completely applicable, still apply. Or, we've said to reach out to Martin if, per se, the qualifications aren't quite matching up, but you still think that you would be a large candidate, a strong candidate, then we encourage you to reach out to us. So can we routinely run ASAN, UBSAN, etc. on the BBS maybe once a week? I guess that would be a question for you, Hervé.
If we can run what on the BBS?
ASAN, UBSAN, etc. on the BBS maybe once a week. Maybe if whoever asked this wanted to expand on that, I don't know if I'm saying.
All right, yeah, it's me again. Sorry, Hervé. So CRAN runs the address sanitizer, I think from Clang, right? The address sanitizer and the undefined behavior sanitizer on all of the R packages that are coming in, and that's actually quite helpful for picking up memory leaks in C and C++ code. Like the last error that I had to fix was a rather embarrassing out of bounds access, right? It just seems that it could be some nice information for those of us who are writing C or C++ code to also have this information just provided for us, especially on Windows.
I see. Yeah, we could run something like that. It's I don't know how much time it would add to the and how much load it would add to the build machines, right? And I don't know if we would be able to do this on all platforms, but yeah, at least on Linux, where it's always easier to run more things. Yeah, we also have on our list to maybe in the near future to run BioC check on packages. So yeah, there are a lot of things we can run. What's the name of this sanitizer? I couldn't really hear you.
It's ASAN and UBSAN.
Okay.
So I mean, I didn't actually know about them before until I looked at CRAN's checks. So CRAN has a whole bunch of checks for things that I don't really care about, like checking that it works with different matrix libraries. I didn't really care about that.
Right.
But the ASAN and the UBSAN can catch some sometimes embarrassing errors in the C++ code.
Right.
So,
is it something that it's easy for you to run locally on your own machine?
I haven't tried running those two. I usually try running Valgrind, and the problem with Valgrind is that it just takes so long to run any, the R command check increases by 10-fold in terms of the time taken. But I don't know how CRAN's doing it, but when I look at some of their reports, it's like, it caught something stupid. So
right.
That might be worth having a look at.
Yeah, I remember in the past, many years ago, it was suggested to run Valgrind on the build machines for the daily builds. And that's something that we said we're not going to do because the cost of running Valgrind on all packages was just going to be crazy. And that's not something we're going to be able to do. But I can look at those tools that you mentioned and see if they are a little bit more lightweight and if it's easy to integrate that to the build system. Yeah. That could be a good thing to do. Yeah, a good addition. Remind me about this on Slack in a few days.
We'll do.
Can you talk more about how projects are chosen by the core team? How does BioC decide what to work on day in, day out? Someone else want to field this one?
I can take a question. All right, so I think I talked about it a little bit, maybe it was yesterday's lunch too, how we kind of structure, like we have our daily meetings where we check in about how our progress is going on our projects, but we set ourselves up with these 2-week sprints where we sit down at the beginning of the week and we say, this is what we'd like to accomplish. We've got sticky notes on a Trello board kind of to lay out. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, hopefully those cards have kind of moved to the done column and we can give like a live demo of what we've been working on. And I mean, in a perfect world, all those cards would be done in 2 weeks, but sometimes some of them carry over if it's a really intensive development, or if you're developing a package or something like that. Sometimes 2 weeks isn't realistic, but we at least want to see some progression and some of the tasks done. So that kind of keeps us constantly working and focused. But as far as how we decide what projects we work on, at the end of the releases, we sit down and we have like a 6-month check-in, because we do the releases every 6 months. And we say, this is what we wanted to get done in the last release. Did we accomplish that? What do we want to get done this upcoming release? And I think a lot of that, if you've been keeping track of the other boards and such throughout Bioconductor, I think some of that kind of comes from the technical advisory board, because they kind of decide what do we need to get done technically, what areas do we need to improve on, or could we further work on? And I think that kind of trickles down to what can the core team accomplish. So that kind of is Martin's kind of the guy that relays what happened at these technical advisory board meetings, and what maybe the community and other users would like to see done in Bioconductor. And then we kind of tackle those based on, I think, certain people have their areas of expertise or their niches. So we kind of just tackle those and realize, are they going to be accomplishable in 6 months? Did it carry over from the last release? And again, in a perfect world, we could get those tasks done in a 6 months time period, but sometimes not more important, but other things come up, like what happens if something happens on the build system? Well, that'll pull Lori and Hervé away from their other projects for a little bit, because that's something that needs to be addressed right away. Or if something happens to the website or the support site and, you know, like people are potentially hacking it or something like that. Like, obviously there's things that pop up that we need to address right away, which kind of takes us away from our projects. But there's things that we have to do on a daily basis. Obviously monitor the build reports, monitor the website, the support site, package reviews. We are really striving for like 2-week windows where we give back reviews, but we also respect that from also our reviewees. So that's something that we have to constantly keep in the back of our mind too, is that we need to be doing these package reviews, hopping on various conference calls, whether we're working on the Anvil project, or if we're hopping on the developer forum, or if we're developing our own packages. So we wear many hats, which can be exciting because you're involved in a lot of things, but can also be very stressful when it comes time for these 2-week reports or 6-month reports or release time, because you know you started it really wanting to accomplish a lot of things, but there's just so many things that might pop up that pull you away. But I think we all really strive to just that we try to stay on focus as much as possible. And I think our Trello boards and our 2-week sprints help that. But sometimes it's inevitable, and some of these things, like everyone keeps mentioning the website. Trust me, we all wish, you know, we could get that done, and it's been on our board for a while, but you know, things happen. So we appreciate the patience and the willingness to work with us. And I think if you have projects in mind, I think you can bring them up to either of us on the core team or to any of the boards. And I think they kind of find their way to the proper people. But that's kind of a broad overview of our day in and day out activities and some of our responsibilities and how they all work together.
I did mention earlier too, we do these longer meetings once a week where we do a clean of the support site, the devel mailing list, and any open GitHub issues that were reported. And we do keep track of them. We don't always get to them again in a timely manner. In a perfect world, when we always need more people. So keep that job posting in mind if you know of anyone.
More people or just more time in the day, I think is another issue. It's just, you know, if there were 25 hours in the day, we could get more done. But we also sometimes have to sleep and eat sometimes.
But we are aware of any open issues that are reported, and obviously if something is a larger bug, we'll try to get to that right away. If it's a feature request, it might be pushed back a little bit, but we do keep track of everything that's opened and do review them.
The poll seems to have one more question. How robust is the testing procedure in packages developed by the Bioconductor core team? Do you use code coverage as a measure while writing test cases? What are some of the best practices used by the core team for our package development?
I guess I can touch on that again, just because I did the Create an R package workshop yesterday and the Bioconductor submission. So we are no different. We still go through the submission process for any of the packages that we submit. We cannot review our own package, even though when they first get submitted, sometimes that happens where it gets assigned to us, but then Martin goes and reassigns it to somebody else. And we act as if we're a typical developer and we have to go through the review process. Our package has to pass all the builds and the checks. I mean, one thing that might be difficult is that it is all supposed to be documented there, but sometimes, you know, we might just yell across at each other and be like, hey, Nitish, can you check my package really quick or something like that. So we try to keep it as documented as possible on the issue tracker because, you know, we are trying to be as a typical developer. So you can see all of the commenting back and forth. Like when I submitted my package, Marcel was my reviewer and he gave me a lot of positive criticism, things that we could change, things that you can't. And that's a typical review process. There should be back and forth between you and your reviewer. As far as like the testing process is the same. We go through the same issue tracker through the single package builder. Code coverage, we have unit tests. I don't think we stress code coverage as much. I think just as with any other package, we want to see unit tests and we want to see as many functions being tested as possible. I think I mentioned in my presentation yesterday, BioC set has like hundreds of tests that run very quickly, but when I checked code coverage after the fact, I think I was only up to like 78%, and I've been developing since, so I know my tests could improve, and that's an area that I'd like to improve. But I don't think we really hone in on a specific percentage of coverage. And then best practices for the core team uses for our package development. I went through on our website under the developers tab, we have a package submission and a package guideline, 2 documents. The submission kind of walks you through the typical process of a submission as far as what are some expectations, how does the review process go, what are the different packages we review and accept, and then kind of after the fact, some points of there. And then the package guidelines really lays out what do we look for in a general package structure, what do we look for in the description file, the namespace file, the R files, the vignettes, the man pages, the unit tests, the R code. So we do look at a lot of different things. And I mentioned in my workshop, when I sit down to do a package review, I kind of go through the package guidelines and see that it's not a strict thing. It won't make or break your package, but that's kind of a good baseline as far as what I look for when I'm reviewing a package. So I would say take a look at that documentation, and that's exactly what we go through with our packages as well.
And I will point out too, like for BioC Check, if you think that introducing code coverage or some linkage, and for any sort of feature requests, we really do love pull requests. We're not opposed to pull requests. It makes it easier for us to review something rather than just requesting us to do it for you. So we would really like pull requests.
I think in general, like code coverage is it's a very meta question, right? Like, so essentially it's a challenge against how much of the code you've written is being touched by your test cases. And sometimes as developers, we write the code in one way and our test cases are biased because we have written the code already. So I think there is a way to like improve test cases as more people use the package. But again, that's a deeply philosophical thought process. We have one more question. I think I want to suspect Aaron is asking this. Who is the best developer on the BioC Core team? I can say for sure it's either Martin or Hervé, but I don't want to jump to any conclusions. I think everyone's a pretty good developer on the team.
Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, but watching Hervé or Martin code and what they come up with is sometimes pretty spectacular even from our point of view. I know I've sat down with Martin even when it comes to a couple different languages, C, Python, and watching him code, and Hervé will come up with solutions, and then Hervé comes up with this really eloquent 1 to 3 line solution that's completely efficient, and I just feel like a bad programmer.
I agree as well. It's mind-blowing sometimes the amount of time I'll spend on something and then, finally ask for help from Martin or someone on the team. And it's just like, wow, like honestly, that was what was stumping me. So, but again, I think like Lori said, we all have strengths and weaknesses and our specialties and our niches. And I think we're learning as a group how to use each other's strengths and weaknesses to the best of our abilities and with collaborative work and such.
Like Marcel with all of the integrative work, and Nitish with GitHub and our resident GitHub and or Git and Docker experts, and we all have strengths on the team.
It's important to point out about the depth of the thought process which Martin and Hervé put into when they're writing even a single line of code, right? Like there is an immense amount of thought which goes into writing each line of code. And it's not something at least I do. I just write code like I'm writing a piece of paper maybe, but like when they write it, it's got like a couple of paragraphs of thought which you can spell out. It's very deep.
And I think that actually brings us to time. So we can sign off to make sure you guys can get to the 1 o'clock. But thank you all for joining us. I know that was some great discussion, and please feel free to reach out with anything else on the Slack channels or on the mailing list, and we look forward to hearing from you all. Thanks, everyone.